Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we are going to start chapter 17. And before we begin, I will say the prayers to Guru and God and I will play the Guru mantra. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuru Militamene Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः.
So I'll start playing. We are going to cover 17.1 to 17.6.
अथ सप्तदशोऽध्यायः श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगः. अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः. श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तं शृणु. सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत. श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषो यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः. यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः. अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः. दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः. मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guruji. It's Deepaliji's turn.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. 17.1 Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the faith of those who worship with faith, but without following the scriptural injunctions? Is it in goodness, passion, or ignorance? 17.2 The Supreme Lord said, the faith of the embodied beings is of three kinds, born of one's nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now hear about these from me. O Bharata, everyone's faith conforms to the nature of their own minds. All people possess faith, and what they are depends verily on the nature of their faith. 17.4 Those in the mood of goodness worship the celestial gods. Those in passion worship yakshas and rakshasas, while those in ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. 17.5 and 17.6 Those who undergo severe austerities, not prescribed by the scriptures, being impelled by hypocrisy and egoism, lust, attachment, and the force of their desires, they torment not only their body, but also I who dwell within them as a supreme soul. Know these senseless people to be of demonical resolve. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So another very nice set of teachings here, very profound, very powerful, that taking us more closer to our goal of self-realization and spiritual evolution. So, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has given us so many profound truths about our spiritual destiny, the nature of universe, how we can live in harmony with the divine, and so on and so forth. The previous chapter, if you may remember, it was Daivasura Sampada Vibhaga Yoga. You all remember? That is where it was kind of a turning point, where he was contrasting. I mean, he mostly talks about the good qualities, he mostly talks about what we should be doing in life, but in chapter 16, he also spent a significant time explaining what should not be done. Correct? Now, 16th chapter was only 24 verses, but he covered 26 virtues in that chapter. And in the concluding verses of 16th chapter, Krishna had said that to cultivate divine qualities and avoid those demonic qualities and the traps of those demonic qualities, we have to rely on scriptures. You may remember that is what Krishna has said in the concluding notes, that we should follow the scriptural teachings, scriptural injunctions. Now, what does Krishna mean by scriptures? He's talking mostly about we can just say like Vedas and related scriptures, Vedanta, which includes Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's own teachings. One of the key lessons that Krishna has taught is it's not enough to just read and recite sacred texts, but we have to internalize them, and we have to make sure that the teachings come out in thought, word, and deed. If you remember, I was talking about genuineness. Genuineness basically means your thoughts, your words, your deeds, they all have to align. And the same applies for spiritual evolution also. So when we are reading, for example, today we read a few things from the Bhagavad Gita. Some lessons we read. And then the class is over. Now tomorrow, how is your life? Tomorrow is the teaching in your thought. Very good. But then, is it coming from your thought to your words also? Are you talking in accordance with the teachings? And even better. But then finally, how are you living your life, your actions? Are they also aligned with those thoughts and words? If that happens, then you are pretty much on the highway to success. In chapter 17, so 16 set the context, and then in 17, Krishna is saying that I asked you to have faith. Now I am going to also explain more about faith itself. How many types of faith are there? It's very, very important, because in today's world, there is a lot of delusion going around. A lot of people are so delusional. They think they are having faith. They think what they are doing is based on faith. But it's not really that way. I mean, if somebody tells you, go and kill 100 people because that is what God wants you to do, those people will say they are acting out of faith, but is it really faith? You see? So Krishna is going to go into details there in this chapter, which is very important for all of us. So this chapter, 17th chapter, is known as Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Shraddha is that faith. Traya is three. So Krishna is going to talk about the threefold faith. So basically, he's saying that even faith is of three types: sattva, rajas, and tamas. That is the whole idea that he's going to talk about in this chapter. So when we studied 16th chapter, we prepared ourselves for what we are going to learn in chapter 17. Because chapter 16 told us that scriptures are important. Chapter 16 told us that the faith is important. And then chapter 17 goes into deeper aspects of that faith itself. So it will help us ask these questions like, are we performing rituals out of devotion, or are we doing it out of love for God, or is it just motivated by pride and ego and delusion? And we need to introspect, we need to understand all of this, because we are all on the path of faith here. Okay, so that is what is there in chapter 17. So let us now dive deep into this first set of slokas. So Krishna reminded us, as I said, that our spiritual journey depends on elevating our consciousness. This was in the 16th chapter, where we said that you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created that problem. So we have to first elevate our level of consciousness. And then when our awareness is, because what happens if our consciousness is not elevated, then we are stuck in the lower levels. I'm just giving you some reminders. You may have forgotten some of the teachings. We discussed why, for example, fear was not a virtue. Why we said that abhayam is important, because fear is a lower level of emotion. And when we are in a lower level of consciousness, we will be attracted to lower levels of emotion. And then that will prevent us from imbibing any higher level virtues. See? So in this chapter, 17th chapter, Krishna is now focusing on Shraddha from that perspective, and how Shraddha itself has to be done the right way so that it is aligned with the higher levels of consciousness. And he is telling that Shraddha itself can be of three types: sattva, rajas and tamas. And that may come as a surprise to a lot of us, because we always thought that faith means good. Everybody will say that faith itself is sattvic, but Krishna says no. Even faith can be rajasic or tamasic also. Isn't it very profound? So he will go into detail now. So as always, this chapter begins, and thanks to our friend Arjuna, this whole chapter is because of a question that Arjuna asks. So Arjuna says, Krishna, you said, when Krishna talks about scriptures in the 16th chapter, Arjuna listens to everything and then he has a question. He asks Krishna, he says, Krishna, you said that people have to follow what is written in the scriptures. But what happens to people who have faith, but they just don't follow the scriptures? What happens to them? So he wants to know what happens to those in the middle. In other words, Krishna said people who do not have faith, they don't follow the scriptures. Right? And people who have faith, they follow the scriptures. So it was like a two separation Krishna had told. Now Arjuna says, what happens to people who have faith but they just don't follow the scriptures? So very good question, because Krishna's answer is very profound and that helps all of us. And Krishna says that the quality of your faith is also very important, Arjuna. It is not important to just follow scriptures, because scriptures are only a guidance. They provide a guidance. But how do you approach it? What kind of faith are you practicing? That is what is going to shape your journey. See, in 16th chapter, Krishna said that people who deliberately defy the scriptures, deliberately go against the scriptures, he said they are demonic in nature. And people who follow the scriptures, he said they are daivik, divine. And now Arjuna is seeking clarity. Arjuna is saying, what about those in the middle, who are not opposing the scriptures intentionally, but they just don't follow it? But at the same time, they seem to be good people. They have faith. So what do you say about them? I think this question is for majority of humanity, because majority of us, we don't really understand the scriptures, or we don't know what to follow, but we believe there is God and we want to have faith. So Krishna then tells, he says that while devotion is admirable, true faith has to be accompanied by wisdom, and it has to be guided by scriptural authority. Very, very important. So in the 4th chapter, I think Krishna had already set the stage for this teaching. 4.39, where Krishna said, Shraddhavan labate jnanam tat para sanyatendriyaha jnanam labdva param shantim chirena abhigacchati, where he said the person with faith, who is dedicated, who has controlled the senses, they attain knowledge. And having attained knowledge, they quickly attain supreme peace. See, there he set the foundation already. So in the 4th chapter itself, Krishna had laid the foundation for what he is going to teach later, where he said that knowledge is important. Faith and knowledge, that combination, he said, is very, very important. Because according to Krishna, faith is not just following some rituals. Faith has to come after genuine understanding. It has to be also coming with self-control. When will you have self-control? Only when you know that you are supposed to have self-control. Only when you know why you need self-control. That is all knowledge. That is the kind of knowledge Krishna is talking about. See, because it's very dangerous if we think we are on the right path, but we are actually not on the right path. That is a very dangerous thing. Because if we know we are on the wrong path, that's a different story. Then it is just our free will, whether we want to be on the wrong path or whether we want to be on the right path. But what if we think we are on the right path, but we are not? That is the kind of confusion that Krishna is clarifying here. What if we think we have faith, but actually it is not faith in the true sense? You see? And that is what Krishna is trying to clarify here. So when Krishna says sattvic faith, that kind of faith, he says, is characterized by purity, characterized by wisdom, characterized by a deep understanding of the divine. Okay. And Krishna says, people who are practicing faith, the sattvic faith, they will be practicing spiritual practices, but their motivation is, always just love for God. It is very selfless. And they are always aligned with righteousness, highest truth, and they follow the key virtues that were called out. Virtues of ahimsa, satyam, abhayam. See, that is sattvic faith. Whereas rajasic faith, he says that is also faith. But then that faith is driven by desire and ego and a thirst for power. And people with rajasic faith, they may perform religious rituals, but their motivation is often tied to personal gains. They may have faith, but it is tainted. Does it sound like religion? That is what religion is all about. It looks like faith, they call it even faith. But if you see, most religions, they are all based around the need for power. They are all based around the need for some kind of, my community, I have to grow my community has to succeed, my community has to be powerful. There is all those material needs, selfish needs. That he says is the rajasic faith. And the tamasic faith, he says, that is faith which is totally based on ignorance and superstition alone. They are the kind of people who will just blindly follow things without understanding the significance at all. They will not even try to understand why they are doing what they are being asked to do. And sometimes they are following rituals only out of fear. That is all coming under tamasic faith. So if somebody says, no, in the morning I have to light a diya, otherwise God will punish me. See, that is faith, but Krishna is saying that is tamasic faith. Because that is not really helping us evolve. Because we are in lower levels of consciousness there. That's not really going to help us evolve spiritually. See, such a powerful teaching that is coming from Krishna here. Maybe I can tell you a very short story. It's very interesting. And it is related also to what we are studying now. So you all know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a great avatar. So it's a very popular story. There are a few different versions of it as with most old stories, because they have been passed on verbally from generation to generation. So sometimes there are these translational freedoms people take, but that's okay. The gist of the story still remains the same. The lesson will still be the same. So the story is that Swami was traveling. He was traveling to South India. That is how the story is. The setting is there. So, and he is visiting Ranganatha temple in South India. It's a very popular temple. You may all have heard about it. And there are this bunch of Brahmin, I would say, students, and one particular Brahmin, a poor Brahmin, he is sitting under a tree and he is holding a Bhagavad Gita like this, and he is reading it, and he is crying. There are a lot of tears, and sometimes he is actually crying a little loudly also. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows everything, but for the sake of humanity, all of these avatars, they perform leela. So there he is performing a different leela. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts wondering aloud. He says, I know the Bhagavad Gita very well, The Bhagavad Gita does not have any emotional or sentimental stories that will make somebody cry. Have you cried ever reading the Bhagavad Gita? I mean, we are in the 17th chapter. I don't think there has been any chapter where you felt like crying. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thinking aloud. He's saying, I'm not sure what makes this man cry while reading the Bhagavad Gita, Now, immediately the other Brahmin students who are around this one, they tell Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, oh, that guy is illiterate. He cannot actually read. He's just pretending to read the Bhagavad Gita. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, that makes me even more curious. If you are reading and you are crying, I am having some doubts. But if you cannot even read and still you are crying, now I'm really want to know what is going on. So he goes to this Brahmin and is asking them, my friend, I see that this is a copy of Bhagavad Gita that you are reading, and I wonder what makes you cry. What part of the Bhagavad Gita is making you cry so much? And then that guy says, oh Prabhu, I am not actually reading because I cannot read. He says, okay, but then why are you crying? And then he shows what he is reading. Actually, he's not reading. Inside the book, there is a photo and image, and it is the image of Lord Sri Krishna, the famous image of Krishna as a Sarathi, where Arjuna is behind, Krishna is driving the chariot, And he says, look at the mercy, look at how gracious the Lord is. Sarvaloka Maheshwar, he owns the universe. And for the sake of his devotee, he is willing to become a charioteer. He's behaving as if he is the servant of his devotee. How graceful he is, how kind he is, And that makes him cry. And he is crying. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he observes and he says, this man has understood. This man has understood the real essence that all the other literate people have not yet understood. We read about Vibhuti Yoga, where Krishna has talking about his Vibhutis, but they are all just theory for us. When Krishna says, I am Meru, when Krishna says, I am the Om of the, I am the A of the Akshar, Krishna says so many things about himself, but nothing made us cry because it was all just at a theory level for us. Whereas this illiterate man, he looks at one image and he got the essence of the God's grace and God's kindness and mercy, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, he is the one who actually understood the essence of the scriptures. Isn't that very profound? So that is the teaching for all of us. And that is the teaching that Krishna is giving here also. He's saying, when I say scriptures, I'm not saying just theoretically read them and recite them. No, that is not. What is important is, are you able to understand the essence of those scriptures? Are you able to internalize them? That is what makes it a sattvic endeavor. And that is what is going to raise our level of consciousness. Isn't it very practical? So if I have to break it down into some simple insights, practical insights. First insights, reflect on motives. Like whenever we are engaging in worship or prayer or anything, whenever we say I'm doing spiritual practice, it can be anything. Now we have to introspect on the motivation itself. Is our motivation just evolution and self-improvement, or is there something else? Are we looking for social acceptance? Are you looking for prestige? Are you looking for some club membership? Sometimes people are very proud. They will proudly say, I belong to this organization. I belong to that organization. Is that your goal? So Krishna is saying, introspect there. The first practical tip, reflect on your own motive. Very important. Second, the guidance, scriptural guidance. So Krishna said that sincere devotion means you have to understand what is the actual moral lesson. And you have to internalize and you have to feel it. And for this, you have to seek guidance. See, if you are only going to look at the text, if you are interested only in the text, you don't need any guidance. Because as I said earlier, Bhagavad Gita, there are like 1 million copies available. You go to YouTube, there are a zillion videos available. You can watch whatever you want. You can listen whatever you want, right? But who who is going to tell you what is the context? Who is going to tell you how to apply it for your life? How to apply it for your particular situation in life? See, for that you have to seek guidance. And if you have to seek guidance, you have to let go of your pride. But that is what Krishna has been teaching all along. The process for approaching the scriptural knowledge itself. That is the second tip. Is how are we approaching the knowledge of the scriptures? Third, understand the power of sattvic faith. Have faith in your own faith. That if your faith is free from any kind of ego, if it is free from any kind of selfish motives, then it will ultimately give you peace and clarity, and it will ultimately take you towards evolution. There is no doubt about that. So have faith in your own faith. Okay. And the fourth tip I will give is the one we discussed in detail in the last chapter, which is transformation. Transformation of lower modes, lower emotions. It is not a condemnation here. Krishna is not saying if your faith is tamasic, you are doomed. Krishna is saying if you are in a tamasic mode, you just have to be mindfully aware and use all the techniques I've already given. For example, if you are angry, substitute. If you are thinking of something tamasic, substitute. Remember those teachings, right? That is what Krishna is saying. He's saying no matter where your faith is, this chapter is not about saying, oh, that person is tamasic. This chapter is about saying, be mindfully aware. And if you are in a lower level of emotion, if your faith is not sattvic, be aware of that. And I'm telling you how to make it sattvic. Okay, and that should be your goal. See, you may all realize that this is like a post-graduation, where, initially we will start, when you are in high school, we will just say there is God, and then a little more higher we will say, how God is everything. You are not the doer, So, like we discussed all of that. I'm not the doer, and it's all happening by His grace. We have to be grateful and all of that. And then after that we talk about vibhutis, where we say what really is God, so that we are able to appreciate Him more. Then we talk about faith. We say, now that you know that this is God and God is everything, and how God is powerful, and how you should not have sense of ownership, and how great this God is, now start having faith in that God. And after all of that, now it is post-graduation now, where Krishna says, you're already convinced that you need to have faith. Now I'm teaching you how that faith itself should be. How much more structured can it be? As you can see, it is so beautifully structured, and it evolves. The teaching evolves. Now I can give you a very simple analogy as well, like why faith is so important and why faith is the guiding compass for all of us. It should be, is you can just imagine, this is, I'll tell you, the limitation of our own mind, because we know so much about the world. We know about, the galaxies, we know about solar system, we know where the moon is. We even today have figured out how to go to Mars and all of that. But the irony is, we have not figured ourselves out. So we keep, we have all learnt about so many terms, chitta and mana and buddhi, and so we have spoken about the mind, we've spoken about intellect, we have spoken about senses. Correct? We have spoken about ego, we've spoken about pride. But tell me something, honestly. Even now, right now, just ask yourself, what part of you is active? Is it your intellect which is active? Is it your mind that is active? Is it your ego that is active? If you're honest, the answer will be, I really don't know. You see? Because we cannot, even when we are making a decision, when we are reacting to something, when we are attracted to something, it is extremely hard to put a finger and say what part of us is actually being active, what part of us is actually responsible for this current, whatever is happening. That takes a lot of introspection and a lot of sadhana. But if you can get even an inkling into that, that will help you become a master of your own self. That is true yoga. So in that perspective, here is a very kind of a very simplistic explanation that I can give. Is you can imagine that the mind is like a ship, and you can imagine the faith like a compass. You know what a compass is? It's what has north, south, east, west. Yeah. So what is the role of a compass? Wherever the compass points, the ship will sail there. True? So just like the compass guides the ship, your faith is going to guide your life. Very profound, very important. This is all like kind of gems of wisdom that we need to introspect very deeply on. Because whatever we truly believe, whatever we truly hold as sacred, that will dictate the course of all our actions. When you are acting at that time, you will not realize that this is based on a faith that you developed sometime a year ago or 2 years ago, doesn't matter. But right now, whatever faith you are actually developing, right now the faith that you are developing, it will show up as some actions in the near future. It's a very, very powerful lesson. In other words, if you are not developing the right faith, your actions will not be right. You cannot just force fit the right actions. You cannot train yourself to just do certain actions. It's not going to work. The actual root cause will be your faith. Whatever faith you are developing, that is the compass. Because what happens? Your actions, your thoughts, that is what determines your destiny. So when people say that your destiny is in your hands, that is what is meant by that. It doesn't mean that it literally is in your hand and that you are somehow very powerful. No, what it means is you choose what faith you have to develop. The root cause starts from there and everything follows. Your thoughts will be accordingly. For example, if somebody thinks or somebody makes up their mind, I come across many youngsters these days. I have some discussions with them. I'm in some groups and all. And some youngsters are just convinced. They will tell me that we think there is absolutely nothing wrong in either, alcohol or drugs or anything. I don't think it makes you a bad person. Who said it makes you a bad person? But it doesn't matter. They have created a faith. They have a compass already that tells them that absolutely fine with alcohol, absolutely fine if you have drugs or whatever. No matter, even if Krishna comes in front of them and tells them this is the right way to behave, they will not be able to. Because their compass is pointing in one direction. The mind will force the rest of you to follow that only. Until that compass is turned in the right direction, no amount of jnana will help. This is a very, very powerful teaching. So, what I'm trying to say is, be it ourselves or be it people who are near and dear to us, we cannot try to coach them on what is the right thing to do. Because it is like putting a band-aid. Now, how many band-aids will you put? What you have to actually coach them is go deeper and introspect and figure out what are the beliefs and faith that they have deep in their heart. And if you can influence that, the actions will take care of themselves. See, that is a very, very powerful lesson. There is another very, very important aspect is, see, the intellect is responsible only for the analysis and input, but it is the mind that is going to embrace those ideas, and it is the mind that makes them into unshakable faith. The mind is very powerful. The intellect may whisper, the intellect may say, oh, looks like money is important, because intellect is making some analysis, it is looking at some data points, and the intellect is whispering, it is saying, looks like, money is important. And now what happens? The mind will amplify it, and the mind will say, that whisper becomes a roar. The mind will say, money is everything, and then suddenly such people are running behind money all their lives. But when they are running behind money, if you ask them why, they will not have a single answer. They will only talk about immediate needs, but they cannot explain why they are so obsessed with money. They have to trace back. If they trace back, objectively, they will go back to that one point where the intellect just whispered, saying, looks like money is important, and the mind held on to it and amplified it and said that money is everything, And once the mind makes up that kind of assumption, that's it. Then you are totally under the control of your mind. That is why Krishna said, raise yourself by yourself. Uddaret manat. You remember that particular sloka where he said, your own mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. He didn't say your intellect can be your best friend or worst enemy. He said your mind Because the intellect has done its job, and then the mind is what is going to be constantly working on that. So be very, very careful about that. The mind is also, I like to call the mind as the echo chamber, amplifying echo chamber, where a lot of echo, a lot of noise, it's all in the mind. So there is a text called Yoga Vashishta. If you get a chance, you can read that as well. It's a very profound text, and it talks about the nature of consciousness and how the thoughts create our reality. It's a very ancient text. And if you are more interested in this whole mechanism, you can go read it. Yoga Vashishta is the name of that text. Even in the Upanishads, there is Upanishad called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Just for general knowledge, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka is basically means a forest, and that Upanishad is one of the longest Upanishads, and for whatever reason that I don't know yet, Shankaracharya has spent the most time giving commentaries on that Upanishad. There is a very powerful sloka. It is 4.4.5. So I'll go line by line. It says, I'm taking a part of that. It is a big sloka. I just took a part which is relevant for this discussion. It says, Yata kamo bhavati tat kratur bhavati. As one's desire is, so becomes one's resolve. Yata kratur bhavati tat karma kurute. As one's resolve is, so one performs actions. Yat karma kurute tadabi sampadyate. As one acts, so one becomes. Very logical, very beautiful. So if you put all of this together, it is saying that as is one's desire, so is one's resolve. There was this word we used earlier called sankalpa. So based on your desire, you have your resolve, and based on your resolve, you will have your actions, and based on your actions, you will have your destiny. Go back to the root cause. The root cause was, now does it make sense why Krishna said avoid attachment and aversion? So he's first trying to give us the root cause itself right at the beginning and says, be safe. Just avoid attachment and aversion. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper, then it makes sense to us. Aha, moment comes. Why? This sloka that I just told you, it is highlighting the direct link between your desire, your intention, your action and the outcome. And how that one instant, how that faith, which is at the root of all of this, how that shapes our destiny. Because faith will shape your desires, faith will shape your actions, faith will shape your thoughts, and that is what is in the end. You see, you may see there are some people, be it in the news or be it in the movies or whatever, you will see that there are some people who don't even regret. You may think they have done something bad, but they don't even think they need to regret. Because they will be convinced, they will say, I did nothing wrong. Because that is their faith. Their compass is turned that way. And everything else follows. See, that is the science here that Krishna is talking about. So there is another principle that you all are familiar with, which is called like attracts like. There are some very funny terms we use. Birds of the same feather flock together and some similar things, but at the end it all talks about this. It talks about like attracting like. So if you have tamasic tendencies, they are going to attract tamasic actions, tamasic thoughts, tamasic everything. If you have rajasic tendencies, what are rajasic tendencies? They look glorious, but they are all not sattvic, like ambition, passion, power, control. Krishna says that if you are having tamasic tendencies, now see, this is very important now. Krishna is giving actuals. So Krishna is saying, if you are having tamasic tendencies and if you are drawn to tamasic thoughts and tamasic actions, then even your faith will be drawn towards tamasic entities. What are those tamasic entities? Ghosts and evil spirits. There are people who pray to them also. There are people who are praying to ghosts also. There are people who pray to evil spirits also. The entire black magic concept is all that only. But for them that is faith, na? Because they are also praying only. You see the problem. So they think it is a faith only, but Krishna clearly calling out that is tamas, that is tamasic. It's not going to take you anywhere higher. Just like that, rajasic. Rajasic means if you are the kind of person who is drawn towards glory, passion, ambition, all of that, then your faith will also be driven towards rajasic entities. What are rajasic entities? Yakshas. Who are yakshas? They are the people who are responsible for wealth. They are custodians of wealth or power, rakshasas. I don't know if you're aware, there are small groups of people who even worship Ravana. But for them, that is faith. They are having faith in whoever they are praying to. And you will see these stories in the Puranas also, where people are performing yagyas or whatever, but their goal is something like, they want power or they want victory over a kingdom. Rajasuya yagya, for example, where they want to have control over all the neighboring kingdoms. That is a very rajasic faith. And then people who are sattvic tendencies, they are the ones whose faith is also going to be aligned in a sattvic manner. So they are the ones who can actually pray to God out of love for God. But even there, Krishna says, even there, if you are not completely in a mode of sattva, you will end up praying to the demigods. It is still not tamasic, but it is still not the absolute either. Because you want to go to heavens. That's okay, Krishna says. I will help you reach the heavens also. But you should just know what you are doing. So this is pretty much what bhakti yogis need to really understand is, it is not enough to just develop faith. When people say have shraddha, it is also important to analyze faith itself and make sure that whatever faith we are developing is sattvic. So 17th chapter is very important for that. Because as you see, gunas are there always, we discuss how everything is a mix of these gunas. So it's not easy. It's not at all easy to have just one guna. It's not possible that something is 100% tamasic or 100% rajasic. And it is not easy that something is 100% sattvic either. Okay, so we need to be always mindful and recognize when the lower gunas are influencing our actions and thoughts and faith. And continuously work on it. And what is going to be the impediment there? The biggest impediment is pride again. As long as we are in a mode of pride, that introspection will not come. It will not let us even realize that we are being drawn to something tamasic. Even if your intellect tells you, you will not be able to accept it. After that, Krishna then says that in the name of spirituality, there are some people who perform senseless austerities. There are people who will senselessly torture their bodies and they believe that it's going to give them some kind of siddhis and he tells that such people, they are torturing themselves also and they are torturing me also because I'm inside them. So he's making it very dramatic. He's saying, look at those people, they are mindlessly torturing themselves and they are torturing me also. So that kind of, because that is based on a very rajasic faith. Because that faith there is a lot of ego. See, when you say, I'm going to stand on one leg for 100 years, isn't that based on ego? Because somewhere you are saying, I can stand on one leg for 100 years. That is what makes you take that resolve, right? So it is I can do. So that ego is predominant there. So it's a very rajasic thing. When I was explaining this earlier in another group, somebody asked me a question. So I thought I will include that in today's session. So somebody asked me a question. They said, Guruji, but we read in the stories that there are great saints and holy men who have performed severe penances and they have got darshan of God. So how is it that Krishna is here saying, no, that's not be done, but then in our Puranas there are examples of people who have done it. So I thought I'll take a little time to explain that. Again, as always, it may look like Krishna is contradicting himself, but Krishna never contradicts himself. Okay? There is no contradiction really. The nature of scriptural guidance, this is what Krishna has already taught us. It is not just about rigidly following every rule, literally. It is more about understanding the underlying principles of dharma, detachment, selfless devotion, and is the goal self-realization? Or is the goal showing off and just getting some siddhis? That is the first aspect. The second aspect is again the intention, the bhava. Here Krishna is not just saying, people who perform austerities are not sattvic. Krishna has already just explained what is the driving force. What kind of faith makes you do that is the question. So in other words, if that faith itself is motivated by ego, pride, attachment, where there are in the same Puranas, there are stories where a rishi just wants to become a Raja Rishi. They want the title. There are stories where somebody wants the title of a Brahma Rishi. And because they are not getting that title, they keep going and keep doing penances. But see, the motivation is a title. This is what Krishna is talking about. And this is where the role of a guru is important. Because the stories where somebody did a penance and got the darshan of God, if you read those stories correctly, at the beginning, there was always a guidance from a guru. For example, Prahlada also did penance. Dhruv also did penance. Who remembers who was guiding Dhruv? Does anybody remember? Raise your hands, please. Okay, we have one hand. Smita ji?
I think his mother.
Mother was kind of instigating him. Mother was the one who told him to,
He was not getting father's love. So
Yes. But there was somebody who actually told him how to approach that. Somebody who actually, yes, Sulata ji?
Narad Muni.
Yes. When yes, you are right, Smita ji. The mother was the first one who told him that you need to seek, Vishnu, but he had no clues how to seek Vishnu. He was a child, he just left and he said, I'm going to the forest and I'm going to figure out how to, Then Narad Muni meets him and he tells Narad Muni, this is what I'm trying to do. And then Narad Muni tells him, this is what you should chant. And if you chant this the right way, without any distraction, then God will appear. And then he goes and does penance, where he's so focused and that even the gods become nervous. You see, Narad Muni's guidance was there. So, like that, whoever has this doubt, whoever says that, but our Puranas say that there are people who have done austerities and they got darshan of God, they have to read the story from the beginning and there will always be a guidance of a guru. Only those people have got the darshan of God in the end. But people who have just been misguided and they just randomly go and hang upside down just because they want to show off their powers, at the most they got siddhis. They didn't end up getting God realization. So that is another aspect of it. Why we say guru? Because as we said, many times we cannot see or we cannot raise above our own self. It's a very extremely difficult feat. Like for example, right now, if I am depressed and I am thinking or acting based on that depression, I myself cannot realize that. I myself cannot realize that my action or my thought is based on a depressed mindset. But somebody who is not depressed, that person can look and say, oh no, this is not the right thing for you at this point. At this point, you need to do something different, correct? That is why we had asked a question earlier. If you want to untie yourself, who can help? Only a person who is not tied themselves, na? If I am also tied, you are also tied. I cannot help you. You see the point? And when we say guru, that is what we are talking about. At least that person is a little more untied than you. So that at least that person can see a little higher than you. That is the whole point. And then help you reach out to that one person who is absolutely untied, who is Krishna. So the guru's job is pretty much turn your compass in the right way. That is all. The guru's job is not to actually take you anywhere or push you anywhere. Once the compass is turned in the right direction, then whatever happens is happening through your own faith. It's happening through your own mind only. You see the point? Okay. So that is the point we are talking about. And then contextual understanding is important because here Krishna is addressing Arjuna's specific concern about what happens to people who don't follow the scriptures but who still have faith, who still claim to have faith? Then Krishna says if they don't follow the scriptures, they may not even understand what kind of faith is the right faith. So I'm explaining that to you. So here what Krishna is saying is in that context. Very, very important. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that no matter what we do, the divine grace is what makes the difference at the end. Because for some people, they get darshan of Vishnu in 6 months. For some people, it takes 600 years. For some people, it takes an eternity. And there we need to have that humility that it doesn't, today we cannot say that, okay, now I'm going to read the scriptures, understand the scriptures, I'm going to turn my compass, I'm going to become sattvic, and God will appear in 6 months. No, then again we are not really understood. That is the whole point, is we need to still be in the mindset of humility and realize that the divine grace is important. It does not mean that God is playing favorites. It does not mean that God is choosing, okay, if it is Rajesh, I will take 1,000 years, but if it is, Deepa, I'll give it in 3 months because somehow Deepa is special. It's not that God is being partial. It is that if Deepa got realization in 3 months, that means within that 3 months, she somehow had that realization that it is only God's grace that's going to help. Although she was doing penance, she had already got that realization first, that it is not my penance that's going to give me my penance is more like preparation. My penance is more like homework that I have to do. Whether I'm going to actually clear the exam, that is going to depend on the grace of God. That is the first realization that has to come. And once that realization comes, then the real realization, the doors for that get opened. Very, very important. And so Krishna is also saying that there is a difference. And he says the key difference again is the intention with which those penances were performed. The bhava is very, very important. So don't do anything, even if it is yoga, don't do it with a mindset of ego and pride, and don't do it for selfish gains. No, don't say that, oh, if I do this, somebody will call me a yogi, or if I do this, they will give me admission to this particular school, or if I do this, then I'll get 1 million followers on TikTok. That should not be the goal. So Krishna is using the term Asura Nishchayan, which is demonic resolves, to refer to the determined intentions and decisions of those who have demonic nature. So what are those resolves? Some of them we can characterize. They will just disregard the scriptures. Some of them will even hate the scriptures. Impurity and lack of ethics. There is no purity, there is no truthfulness. And the focus is materialistic focus. More like, sense gratification and wealth and all of that. And they also have driven by cruelty and hatred. There are stories of people who have done yagyas and penances because they want to defeat somebody, because they want to kill somebody. You will see that in the Puranas also. There are stories like that also. So Krishna says the act of performing the yajna may look like a very devotional act. It may look like that person is acting out of faith, which is correct. But that faith is not a sattvic faith. That faith is also demonic only. And that is only going to take you lower. Now it may make more sense in the earlier chapters where Krishna used the word moha kalilam. Remember? Where he told Arjuna, don't blindly follow the rituals because it will only take you through a dense forest of delusion. Now it probably makes more sense to you what Krishna was actually talking about. Because without this kind of realization, if we just blindly follow the scriptures, you may think you are doing the right thing. You may think you are in good faith. But actually you are practicing something which is tamasic. And you will not even know. And that is why Krishna said, hold. Don't get into that. Just listen to me. Just surrender to me. And eventually you will start seeking wisdom. You will start internalizing it. And now you will understand exactly how to follow the scriptures. I hope all this is making sense. I would like to reiterate that we learned earlier on that devotion cannot develop just with our intellect or willpower. We need God's grace in order to develop. Premanandji Maharaj, one student asked Premanandji Maharaj, he said, why do you, because Premanandji Maharaj also, he is very particular. He tells people that you need the guidance of a guru. And then they say that हमने आपको तो गुरु मान लिया है, so हम आपको, we just put a photo of you in our house and we just treat you as a guru. So what is wrong in that? So Premanandji smiles and says, there is nothing wrong in that. Well, he tells in Hindi, so I'm also telling in Hindi because it sounds very beautiful in Hindi. So he says, उसमें कोई गलत बात नहीं है, मगर वो फोटो आपको डांटेगा नहीं ना. वो फोटो तो कभी आपको डांटेगा नहीं, वो फोटो आपको कभी ठोकेगा नहीं, वो फोटो कभी आपको सही गलत बताएगा नहीं. तो इसीलिए मतलब तात्पर्य क्या है, हम गुरु किसको कहते हैं? गुरु उसको कहते हैं जो who can point things out. That is the only job. And that is what Krishna is also saying, that you need the grace of God. And how do you get the grace of God? How do you know whether you are on the right track? Is through the grace of a guru. It is not that the guru is magically just getting some quota from the God. That it is not like a middleman at all. That's not the point. The point is the guru is just a tool that can help look at your compass and say, your compass needs to be corrected, or your compass is not pointing to true north. You see, that is all. But at least that much we need to have humility for us to actually go where we want to go. That is the whole message. So after explaining the three categories of faith, now Krishna will explain, corresponding to all of that, the categories of food, categories of activities, categories of charity, sacrifice, so on and so forth. So he is going to make it a complete science and says that now that you understood what is sattvic faith, rajasic faith and tamasic faith, I will also tell you what are the things that will again help you go towards sattvic, go towards... The beautiful thing is Krishna also explains, exactly what are the kind of things which are tamasic. So if you make a willful choice that I want to be tamasic only, Krishna, he has given recipe for that also, It's very clear. So by mistake, you should not become sattvic if actually you want to be tamasic. So Krishna has made it very clear. If you want to be tamasic, this is the food. These are the kind of activities. But if you want to be sattvic, then this is the list of food and this is the list of activities. You cannot, it is not a buffet. You cannot say that, food I will take tamasic and drinks I will take sattvic and activities I will do rajasic and somehow magically I will still reach. That is delusion. So Hare Krishna. With that I will stop talking. I hope this made sense. In my opinion, it's a very, very powerful lesson again, which is taking us towards the culmination of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. I think a few more sessions and then we will be ready for the concluding chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So let us all, make a promise that we will spend some time in introspection and we will not just let it be theory and we will not forget. We will introspect and put it to practice. So with that, I'll stop talking. Hare Krishna. The floor is yours. If you had any questions, comments, doubts, criticisms, please feel free. It's your satsang. Yes, Tulata ji.
The story which you had told once, in a village there was drought and the people decided, to pray to God, like with the yajna, sacrifice, Agnihotri yajna or some sacrifices. With all faith, faith, they just went together with the required things. And one small boy was observing them. He too came there, wanted to join them. But when all were coming there and gathered, he came there with the umbrella. He had a full faith that it will rain.
Exactly. Conviction.
Conviction, yes.
Totally beautiful.
And
also, actually, what is more damaging is our self-doubt. We need to have a conviction in ourselves also.
Yeah, that is one of the pragmas, right?
Yeah.
Where we said that your conviction in God depends on your conviction in your own self. That is why I said today that you should have faith in your own faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lakshmi ji, you were saying something?
No, that's one thing, that a thief was going to, he was explaining, when Pandit ji is explaining about the Krishna's, what he is
Yes.
wearing jewels, and he had a fight, he went to that forest and certain thief, he thought the God, even for
Yes.
the thief, the God is giving because he has a faith.
Yes.
That I
Exactly.
want to,
Because the intention mattered.
yeah.
The Pandit had all the knowledge of God, but the thief had more faith. So God appeared in front of the thief, but not in front of the Pandit. So see, now maybe it makes more sense why Krishna looks down upon Mithyacharis. And even Lord Rama gave the same message. Chal Kapat he calls. That is in the Ramcharitmanas, where he says one of the primary requirements, he says, of a devotee is when you approach me, you have to approach me without any chal or kapat. Why? Otherwise, you can waste your entire life thinking that you are doing something right and something holy, but you are not actually, and you will not even realize it. Because your thoughts, your actions, they are not aligned. So you are preaching and you are doing bhajan and you are doing kirtan, but in your heart, in your mind, you have 100 doubts, you have 100 attachments. See, that is mithyachar. That is hypocrisy. That's what Krishna is saying. So, very nice.
Guruji, just help to put in context, and maybe I missed a little, where you said you have these rishis, they are also guided by Guru at the very first instance to do the act what they're supposed to, and then they could do the extreme level because he wants to become a Maharishi. So he has the guidance of the Guru, basis which he takes the path. Then why he gets into the mode of pride to become a Maharishi? I mean, you would explain or the penances they do, standing on one leg or whatsoever. So initially they have the guidance and therefore they get into the path. But what drives them to take it to the next? Or is it the pride that, okay, I want to now take it to the next level, stand on one leg or whatever?
Yeah. So, at least in our Puranas, at least to the best of my knowledge, there is no instance where a guru told somebody that if you want to become you should think of becoming a Brahmarishi, for example. There is no story where a guru tells a student that you should have this ambition to be a Brahmarishi or a Rajarishi or whatever. But what happens is, when a student comes to a guru and says, I want such and such thing, what am I supposed to do? Okay, the guru gives them the best possible advice.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is up to the student to one fine day come to the guru and say, I have realized. See, do you remember the beautiful story of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna? Where Vivekananda is telling Ramakrishna about his difficulties, difficult times. And Ramakrishna tells Vivekananda, go to Devi and tell her your problems. She will solve it. And then Vivekananda goes to the Devi, prays, and when he comes back, Ramakrishna asks him, so what did you pray? And Vivekananda says, I actually forgot. When I was in front of the Devi, I actually forgot what I was. Ramakrishna says, shame on you. You can't follow a simple instruction. Go again. And he's going again. And after some time, he comes back and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I again forgot. You see what the guru is trying to do. The guru is trying to build that conviction in the student, saying that your problems are not what you should be going to God for. But that realization has to come to you, na? The guru cannot give you an injection of realization. The guru can only help you guide to go in a direction where you may develop that realization yourself. So, Vivekananda got that realization himself. And then he had the realization, what am I doing? I am in front of Devi and I am talking about these mundane problems. How can I even think of any problems? How can they be even relevant? Just like that, somebody says, I want to become a Brahmarishi, they are not thinking about the absolute that they need to reach. They are still in what I am being called, what my designation is.
Right.
So if you want to become a Brahmarishi, what is the motivation for that is the question. Why do you want to be a Brahma Rishi? Are you realizing you want the world to call you like a Brahma Rishi, call you that, oh, that is Brahma Rishi? But isn't that just your own pride? That is the whole point being called out here. Whereas when Dhruva went to do a penance, Dhruva was not going there to get some fame, or he was not going there so that the world can call him as such a great devotee. He was very innocent. He was just following a very simple thing that his mother told him, and he just wanted to see Vishnu, and that is why he had that guidance from the Guru. The Guru just said, okay, this is how you are supposed to do penance, and he did it with a very innocent, pure heart, and that is why, the God had to appear in front of him.
And also you had given this last session the example of Valmiki, where you said, no, he was just directing towards his wife, and then she just channelized him. The compass,
Tulsidas.
Tulsidas, sorry, my bad. Yeah. That same, how she channelized, and then he became Tulsidas.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Substitution, very, very important. Akash, you raised your hand. Was there anything you wanted to ask?
No, Guruji, I just got the answer.
Very nice. Okay, then, Hare Krishna. Anything from our Pune Mandali?
Guruji,
Yes.
you wanted to talk about this daylight saving.
Yes. So from tomorrow we are having daylight saving change again. So what that means is we can go midway. I can also go half an hour later, and so that it's not going to be too early for you. So instead of 7 p.m., I will start at 7:30 p.m. And for you, instead of 8:30 a.m., it will become 8 a.m. for India. And Dubai, you will have to do the conversion. I think Dubai will be at 7:30 a.m.
6:30.
6:30.
6:30 a.m.
Yeah, which is okay.
Yes. That's okay?
Yes,
I will also post it in the group. Okay, I'll stop recording and then let us chat with our Pune Mandali.